Hi guys, this is Fernando, and today I want to talk to you about contracts, and I want to make sure you understand how easy this could happen to you, is how to kill a contract and get sued. And I want to make sure you understand the ramifications of your position as a real estate agent when it comes to when it comes dealing with clients. And your position is very clear when it comes to contracts. And I want you to listen to this very careful, because we as real estate agents have to know about the legal issues that could potentially, be problematic basically to your client, and you want to make sure that they avoid those problems. And when it comes down to contracts, also there's a lot of things that you may find to be very small in detail, but at the end it could blow up in your face, and it could be a deal killer for you and everybody getting sued. So let's begin. You must avoid this at all costs. You don't want your client later on saying, "You mean I have to pay for this? Whoa, I'm calling my lawyer." That is not a good position to be in, So I'm going to show you how to kill a contract and how to get sued, because this is the easiest way to do this, so you can understand what you should avoid. And we're going to start with failing to disclose or disclosing too much, which in a way it reads like it's a contradiction between one and the other. So let me explain to you what I mean failing to disclose. So one of the reasons why people or real estate agents don't disclose an item is because they have one thing in common, is that they want to make money. They want to do the sale. They don't want to lose the sale. And for that reason, once they learn something about the property that you should tell your client about it, and you decided for yourself not to say anything or hide it from them, that is when you are really breaking the law. Because your job is to make sure you disclose everything to your client. And if your client discovers defects on a property later on, after signing all the papers, I can assure you the first person they're going to blame is going to be you. So for that reason, making sure that you have all the documentation to protect yourself and protect your client, and make sure you disclose everything. So we go to the other side where we're talking about disclosing too much. Well, Fernando, what does that mean? Well, it means about disclosing information that is very important to your client, which is something that they tell you about it, but you must not reveal this to the other side, because the other side having that information may cost your client more money at the end. In a way, sometimes there is some information that they may give you when it comes down to finances or their personal affairs, or different things that may not be that important to you, and you, as a matter of fact, you may reveal that information to the other side, to the agent that you're doing the negotiating with. And then because of that, a person that is very savvy in contract, they can pinpoint that reason to make your client pay more money. And later on, when they find out about it, obviously they are going to blame it on you, and you may end up having to pay money to them. So it's very important that you understand this, and then have your client's information guarded. Protect your client's information from the other side for every possible way that is going to affect the price of the house, or is going to affect the way the contract is going forward. Another common way how people get sued, how real estate agents get sued, is when they forget of who do they really represent. Very important that you know that the real estate agent is being held to the highest standard of honesty, full disclosure, and protection for your client. And that is your job that you have signed up for. This is why you have a license. And if you have any doubts on not doing that for your client, then you're basically breaking the law, breaking your promise, and that will cost you a lot of money. You're working for your client's best interest, not yours, not your brokers, or not their brokers, or not the sellers. You have to understand that your client is your paramount person that you must held in high protection and give him your full honesty and your full disclosure on everything. If you find sometimes when the seller may know something that you don't want to disclose to your client, or you want to make sure that the seller makes more money, or you make more money, or the other agent makes more money, or your loan officer makes more money, and you're trying to screw your client because of some little check mark or something in the contract, man, that is the worst thing you can do, because if you get caught, that will be it for you. And then this is one of the most common ways to lose your licenses, because it's a breach of duty, and that is exactly what it is. A breach of duty, because you must always act in the best interest of your client. And they trust you. You're breaking that trust. That is what a real estate license is for, to making sure that you are qualified to obtain the trust from a client. So don't blow it up on this. You need to know all the time, who do you represent? You represent your client. Not you, not them, not anybody else. You represent your client. Another way to quickly lose your license is to giving legal advice to your clients. And it's understandable, because, sometimes when I talk to clients, they think that we know everything. They think they're going to ask you those questions, and they kind of pushing you into becoming an attorney and give them legal advice. And you are not an attorney. You are a real estate agent. And as a matter of fact, you should avoid to even talking about any of these things and giving them advice on taxes or any other type of legal advice. You should refer always that to an attorney, and you should tell that to your clients. And very important for you to understand that sometimes your clients may have asked you questions about how to pay the taxes, or how to get hold of the title, or what to do with with a tax exchange. Any of those things that have to do with being legal advice should be referred to an attorney. And then when it comes down to contracts, when you're writing the contract, it's a very, very important distinction of writing a contract and filling the blanks. Please understand this. In actuality, when people say, I'm writing a contract for my client, you are not writing a contract for anybody. You are filling in the blanks in a contract that's already there, somebody already drawn up, attorneys have put this contract together. That's what you're getting when you go to GCAR. That's when you're getting when you go into SIP forms. You go in these contracts that are already completed for you. The only thing, your job is to fill in the blanks. So don't go over there and becoming suddenly an attorney and changing things on a contract to help your client, or you thinking that you're helping your client. No, because that will be considered practicing legal advice, practicing the law, and you are not supposed to be doing that. Another quick way to get sued is to be exaggerating or puffing the sale of the property you're trying to sell. Whether you're a listing agent or a buyer agent, and since most of you are buyer agents, I want to concentrate on the buying side. You may be saying something about a property, that there's going to be this factory going to be down the street or down the road, and and the property values are going to go up way high. This is a great buy for you. That is not something for you to say, because you are definitely exaggerating, because you don't know if the property value will go up because of the factory, or you don't know if this is going to be a major change on the value of this house 2, 3, 5 years later, So it's a very important thing that you don't want to mislead your client about anything when it comes down to a property. You always want to be truthful, and then all the claims about the property has to do with facts and not with speculations for a future gain for your client just because you want to do the sale. But this also works on the other side, which is be exaggeration on the other side. And let me give you an example that I heard from another agent that they told me about this case, where they were doing a walkthrough. The buyer agent and the client went to the house before they go to closing, and they're going to walk through the house, and then they go to the shower on one of the bathrooms, and then the buyer opens the shower, and there is really almost very little water coming out of the shower head. So the client says they were supposed to fix this during the home inspection, they didn't. What we're going to do? And then the buyer agent, which was, counting on his commission to come later on that day because he wants to do the sale, he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. This is a very easy fix. Only thing you need to do is change the shower head, and because it's corroded, it's got a lot of stuff in there, and let's just put a brand new shower head." I tell you what, as soon as the closing is over, I'm going to go to Home Depot and pick you up a shower head for you, and I'll install it for you. Is that okay? So the client agreed to this, and obviously they went to closing, and then the agent did exactly as he said, and they went to buy a shower head from Home Depot. They went to the house, installed it, and then once they opened the shower again, he had the same problem. It wasn't solved. There was no flow of water on the shower. The pressure wasn't there. So that's when the client find out later on, when he hired a plumber, that there was some problem with the piping and the way that everything was going upstairs, and they have to do a brand new line, brand new piping, which ended up costing like $3,000 or $4,000. And guess what? That buyer went back to the agent and said, "You told me that there was nothing wrong with this house, and there was $4,000 bill here, so you need to pay." And guess what? They went to court, and court says, "Yes, you have to pay." And just because of that reason, exaggerating on something that you don't know in one way or another is not allowed in real estate. Making sure you protect yourself, and don't just be saying something just because you want the sale to be completed. Be very careful out there what you're advising your clients. Another way how to kill a contract or lose a sale or how to get sued is that you forgot a deadline date. Oops, my bad. Whether it's a date about home inspection or anything that has to do with the contract where it comes down a performance from your buyer, your client is waiting on you and is relying on you to making sure you are doing the right things on the contract and doing them at the right time. And this is because a breach of contract, this is exactly what it is. It's a breach of contract. It is the part when your client did not perform under the terms of the contract. And now the seller is going to be seeking legal action or is forcing your client to doing something they don't want to do. And that is when you're going to hear what this guy is saying. He says, "You mean I have to pay for this?" Well, Mr. Client, I forgot to tell you that we were supposed to do this within 3 days, and today is the 5th day. So, yes, you have to pay for it. Whoa, no way. I'm calling my lawyer. That is exactly what it is. Breach of contract. You did not do the right things to advise your client or to protect your client and to guide your client, and making sure that you are under the time frames stated in the contract, and making sure that you do not miss one single date in time. Another way to get into hot waters and getting sued on a contract is about inspectors, and then when it comes down to recommending your clients for a home inspection on a property, and this comes down to the contract that your home inspector has for your client. If you read that inspector's contract and what is he liable for, it is usually and most often, and I think it's 100% of all home inspectors have this condition on the contract, and the little letters, it says that the home inspector, if they found something that he missed during the inspection on the house, the home inspector is only liable for the amount of money that the client has paid him. If they're paying $400, that is how much they're going to be liable for. That is it. So guess who's going to pay the remainder of that? You, the real estate agent. Because there hasn't been a case when they find out that there was a roof they were hiding some of the stuff that there was something wrong with the roof and they had to replace the whole roof. It may cost them $7,000-8,000 to do that. And the home inspector failed to say anything about it because they did not catch it. They did not see it. And he reported, as a matter of fact, that the roof was okay. So after the buyers move into the house, then they find out the problem. They call a roofer and they say, you need to replace this roof. It's obvious because, look, this is what they did. They hide this thing and they trick you into buying this house this way. So now when they go to the home inspector and the home inspector, yes, I'm liable for $400. Here it is. And then they say, wait a minute, this is going to cost me $8,000. So who's going to be the next person? Hey, real estate agent, you recommended this guy. You are the one who brought this inspector. You told me about it. And you told me that he was proficient, professional, and he was going to be able to tell me everything that's wrong with this house. He did not. So now you have to pay for it. You know, you need to recommend inspectors with S at the end, not one home inspector. You need to be sure that as soon as you bring in just one person in on a contract, then you actually assuming legal responsibility that this person is going to perform the way that he's supposed to do. And if he doesn't, you're going to end up paying for it. And that is called basically negligence from your part. You know, don't be trying to ask your brother-in-law who has a home inspection company to come and do the inspections for you. And then if he finds something really wrong, he's going to say, hey, listen, this house is really bad. Why do you want me to put an inspection in here? Because I don't want to scare your buyers. Man, that is so wrong. Because you're not protecting your client. You're protecting yourself. You're protecting your check. And then that is what is going to cost you money at the end. So making sure that when it comes to home inspections, when it comes to any type of services that needs to be performed, in order for your clients to make a decision on the house, you say, Mr. Buyer, I have 2 or 3 inspectors I'm going to be giving you, but you're welcome to bring somebody that you may have. And give them those choices, you know, and let them choose that. And sometimes the client says, we don't know. It says, I'm going to let you choose that for me. Well, this is the one I use sometimes, and that this is somebody who I think that they have good professional standards, and we can call them. That is perfectly okay. But don't just be saying, hey, Mr. Buyer, I already scheduled the home inspector. I got my inspector coming over here to do this job for you. Because on that, it's assuming that you're going to be taking responsibility on that. So be very careful on what inspectors and how to recommend inspectors to your clients. And finally, one of the things I want to talk to you about is ignorance. Ignorance of the contract. If you do not read the contract you're recommending your clients to sign, then you're doing it wrong. You know, and that is exactly what you should be doing, is making sure that you are reading everything and advising your clients on the right things. And making sure that you are allowing them to sign on something that they may not be aware of the ramifications of what they're signing. They're relying on you to making sure that you are advising them correctly. So please make sure you read the contract. You know, I have a lot of times questions from you. They're calling me to say something or something to that effect when it's clearly stated on the contract. If you have read it, you know, then you will know the answer to that. So read the contract and understand it 100% before you ask one single person to sign it first. That's a very important step, don't you think? Know your risk amount. And just remember this, because when it comes down to one little mistake, one little detail that you have missed on a contract, it may end up costing you losing your license. And that license could make you easily $100,000 in the next 12 months. So losing $100,000 is not really smart for you to be able to take a chance on by just missing a little detail or not saying something or completely ignoring something, because you are supposed to know everything about the contract and you want to make sure you protect your client. So now we're going to talk about some examples. So let's look at J-Car sales contract as an example, and I just wanted to point out some things that you need to be watching for all the time. And one of the things that I always see is that it's very important you understand is that, like I told you before on this presentation, you are not writing a contract, and please get that in your head. You are filling in the blanks because you are not an attorney. You are a real estate agent. So don't change anything. You cannot go over there and scratch this part because you think it's not good for your client, and then write underneath something that you think is good for your client. That is a no-no. Don't ever do that. At the same time, if there's a part on the contract that is not applicable to your client, obviously you don't want to put anything in there, okay? Or you can put an NA, whatever, but making sure that you try to put all the information that's relevant to the contract. In this case, I always like to put the tax account number of the property that I'm putting a contract on, because you may have that the address may not be correct, and instead of unit 2A, it may be unit 3A. So you want to make sure you're writing a contract for the right property, and for that reason, you need to put the account ID number to making sure that they know exactly which property you're writing the contract on. When it comes down to price and financing, you have to provide this information. What is the first trust? How much percentage are they going to be financing? What is the second trust? If there's a percentage, you need to put that in there. But everything should amount to the final sales price, which is $100,000, and also provide information about the total financing. So in this case, if a house is being sold for $100,000, and that's what your client wants to pay, $100,000, and they put in $1,000 for down payment, so they have a first trust of $90,000 and a second trust of $9,000, so that will be $99,000 plus $1,000. It will be a total of $100,000. Everything has to match on your offer. Another thing that I say that's very important for you to understand is you need to check the right information about what type of financing that they're going to be utilizing. Okay, you have to choose one, and there is a place where you can also put this contract is not contingent on financing. What does that mean? It means that even if the house, if your client cannot do the financing or cannot get the financing, they are still obligated to the contract. So be very careful when you're going to check this. You know, sometimes you may use this when you're using cash, so you may want to put cash, and this is the part where you put the cash. You don't put a conventional. So you got to understand what you're gonna do, what you're gonna click, and making sure that you have the right addendum to go with what you're clicking. If it's a conventional, there is a conventional addendum that needs to be attached. If it's an FHA, it's the same thing. But making sure that you are checking on the right information, and only check this if it's applying to your case and it does help your client. Another important thing that you need to understand is about the deposit. The deposit has to be payable to the company where you're doing the closing, because in our company, we are not taking money for escrow for these deposits. You have to get the money payable to the company where you're going to be doing the closing. If you don't understand that, please let me know, but understand that this is very important. That money has to be deposited in a special account, and that special account is located at the company where you're going to be doing the closing. And the process is very simple, okay? You write a contract, you put a check payable to the company where you're doing the closing, and if it gets ratified and it gets accepted, the first thing you do is get a copy of the contract, send it to Village Settlements if this is the place where you're going to be closing, and then also provide them with a check for the deposit, and then they're going to be cashing the check and put it in an escrow. Very important that you follow these steps. Another mistake that I see a lot of people do is that they use the to be determined, or they leave it blank. In this case, the settlement date is not an insignificant thing on a contract. You have to have a date. You cannot put to be determined there, because you're doing a disservice to your client if you're sending an offer with a to be determined date, because the seller then accepts this contract, and then they're going to put in here, you know, November, 3 days from now. Can your client close in 3 days from now? Obviously not. Then they are in breach of contract, and they're going to lose the deposit. You're giving them the power to put this information, and instead of you making sure you put the right information for the client. So making sure that know when to use to be determined. In most cases, you have to have an actual information on there, whether it's going to be a date or what your client is supposed to do. It has to be an end. a beginning and an end on every single contract. Another example I see is that you're doing a home warranty and you say you want to just want a warranty, and then you're going to want him to pay by the seller. That is good. And then you do not put nothing on, you do not put something on the cost of the home warranty, and not even anything about who is going to be providing the warranty. So you leave those things blank. So as a seller agent, and I'm going over here and providing this information, I go ahead and get my seller to sign this, and I can actually put there $10, and I'm going to put it warranty provided by Joe Blow from Craigslist. You're giving me as a selling agent, as the listing agent, power to put whatever I want here if you leave it blank. So you must to fill out this information, because this is relevant to this little check mark where it says, yes, I want a home warranty and I want the seller to pay for it, and this is how much I want them to spend, up to whatever, $500, $450, and then who is going to be providing the warranty. You need to actually put the company there. You know, and if you don't know that, call me or call the title company to find out which companies they have for home warranties, and then use them, and you're going to find out how much they cost, and you can go ahead and use the cost also over here. But you must specify things for your client's best interest, and don't let the other party put whatever they want. As I mentioned before, you have on the contract things that you need to read and understand so you can advise your client properly. Sometimes your clients are not reading this, and sometimes we represent people that speak Spanish and they speak very hardly English, and they definitely don't know how to read English. So it's up to you to making sure that you make them understand all these things. And obviously, for that reason, you know, you are not allowed to go over there and get a red mark and say an X this or whatever, because you're not supposed to be doing those things as a real estate agent. You cannot take parts of a contract because you think it's not good for your client. The only person that can do that is an attorney or your client. If that's something that is important for your client, and say, I don't want this part on the contract and I want to scratch it out, then you say, well, then they scratch it out and they put their initials next to it, but they're going to do that themselves, not you as a real estate agent, because in that case you will be practicing law if you advise them to do that. You need to tell them that the reason why something is in a contract is because it applies to the contract, and if it doesn't apply to them, it's actually, you know, omitted automatically from the contract, but not necessarily that they have to go word by word and trying to scratch every single thing. But understand this, you do not take things off the contract or not add any information around underneath to make your point trying to help your client, because you're not supposed to do that. Understanding the date of ratification. You need to understand the definitions on this. You know, read it. It's over there on SIP forms. You know, need to find out about the significance of the date of ratification. Who puts this date here? The person who finally does the last signature of the property or the contract. So if this is a clean contract and the buyer sends this contract to the seller and the seller accepts it with no changes, then he signs it and puts a date here. But if he signs it, but he's got all the conditions that he needs to work with you as a buyer, then there is no date yet here. Then you receive the contract, you show it to your buyer and says, the seller accepts your contract, except this. Do you want to change your contract? If the buyer says yes, then the buyer ratifies the contract, and then that's when the buyer puts this date in here. In some cases, you know, you got to make sure that your client initials this part, because they're the ones who's going to be filling up the date. But know when a ratification of a contract is completed, when there is no other contingencies that has not been agreed upon, and making sure that both sellers, the sellers and the buyers, agree to all the conditions in the contract. And that is when the contract is ratified. And the last person who ratifies the contract puts the date here and initials it to making sure that gives the notice to the other party saying we got a ratified contract. And let's move on. Another mistake that I see a lot of times is that in the Montgomery County jurisdictional addendum, there's a part in here where it says about the closing costs, and understand this part. You know, it says that transfer and recordation taxes. You know, you got to either select either A or B. You select A if the buyer is not a first-time Maryland home buyer, but then over here it says buyer and seller expressly agreed that the cost of state recordation tax and the state transfer tax and local county transfer tax should be paid as follows. Obviously, you need to put in here whether it's going to be 50-50. That means that the buyer will pay their side of the taxes and the seller will pay the side of the taxes, which is normally what we do. You put 50-50. But if you leave it blank, you check this mark, but you leave it blank, then you're basically saying that the seller, may say buyer pays 100% of this. And your client's going to be obligated because, you let somebody else fill in the blanks on a contract, Obviously, it's not going to happen, most likely it's not going to happen, but just the fact that you're doing this and exposing your client for somebody else to come and do something sneaky like this could affect the way that you're doing your business the right way. So protect your client and making sure you fill in the blanks. If you have checked this thing, making sure you put 50-50 because that's what your client goes. And then in this part, if you check the buyer as a first-time Maryland home buyer, you don't actually have to put in there the 50-50 because it's automatically assumed of that. And you need to read this contract to making sure that you understand how you're going to protect your client on all matters. So let me show you, for example, something that where you have some options that you have to put something on a contract. It's not just simply filling in the blanks, but you have to actually put something on your own. So for that reason, I'm going to use the home inspection contingency. After the home inspection has been done and you did a home inspection on the house and the home inspector found these problems on this house. So you're going to put those things. You want the seller that to basically fix these things. So you're going to put the items, and then you got to make sure that this is being spelled out right. You cannot just say repair closet door or remove shed or replace AC or fix the roof. You have to give a more detailed information on this. Most of the time, the home inspector does that for you, and you just got to copy and paste. But you cannot say replace AC, and then they're going to end up replacing the AC, for example, with something that is a subpart, like an old AC or something like that. It doesn't matter what the home inspector says, but what it matters is what your client wants. And if you want a brand new air conditioning system in there, and that's the condition that the buyer is saying, I'll buy this house if I have a brand new air conditioner, then you have to put that in there. Replace AC with a brand new unit and provide all the paperwork and home warranties available. The same thing with the fix the roof. Fix the roof could mean fix 2 shingles, or it could mean replacing the whole roof. You have to specify something in there. And then over here it says all repairs, replacements should be performed in good workmanlike manner. For what items? You need to spell it out. That's why normally you put numbers for each item so you can refer to those numbers here. And it says the buyer, and then they have to provide them with a receipt from contractors specifying the items that has been completed. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. The same thing. If your client decides, I don't want you to be fixing these things, I just want $10,000, then you put that in there. Towards buyers for these items, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But I understand also that you do not want to put things that doesn't belong on a general addendum like this. You don't want to put in there fix the roof, and then you say fix the roof and fix the shingles or change the complete a brand new roof, because we feel that this is what's going on with the roof and the time is going, explanations that it doesn't matter, it doesn't really fit to what you're trying to do. You need to state the facts only and do not put and use the contract to do explanations why your client is asking for this. That is not the proper place for that. You do an email for that. You can use the email when you send this information to them. But when it comes to contract, it's down to the point, to the facts only. That is it. This is not a place to put any type of other comments about how your client feels or why they're asking for that. Another area of concern is making sure you understand on a general addendum, if you're doing a change on the contract, that the closing date is being changed, let's say to 12/25/2015. You put buyer and seller agree to a closing date of 12/25/2015 or before, provided that the buyer gets the financing and the house appraises, or something like that. And this is something that you are not supposed to be doing, because this is already assumed during the contract that there is a financing contingency, so you don't have to put that in a general addendum. And we know that there's an appraisal contingency as well. If you have that in the contract, no reason to bring that in a general addendum. So basically, you should stick to what the facts are and avoid doubling something that's already on the contract. Avoid putting something that we are already in the contract itself. And this goes for the times with explanation that I'm telling you. You're not supposed to be using a contract to do explanations. You're supposed to stay on the facts. That is it. Buyer and seller agree to closing date of 12/25/2015 or before, because the mother of the buyer is not in town and has to get the passport validated, or blah, 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 blah. This is something that is not specific and conditional to a contract. You're not supposed to put anything except the facts in a contract. And the proper way for be able to finish a general addendum like this is basically this. Buyer and seller agree to a closing date of 12/25/2015 or before. All other terms and conditions to remain the same. And I put a line underneath that. And why am I doing that? Because in the line, I'm making sure that there is no way that the seller or the other party has a chance to change something in here. And if you don't have a blank this line here, they can put something else underneath there, and then it will appear that those two persons agree to those things, but there is only it's a misrepresentation from there, and they can use this general addendum for other things that your buyer may not be aware, that it may help the seller, and you don't want to be part of any of those things, So for that reason, I put this line to making sure that nobody is going to come and add anything else underneath. And this is the only thing what we are agreeing to. Okay? So that's the proper way to do a general addendum. Right to the point, put the date, and get it signed. And I think this concludes my presentation for contracts class. And I hope this was able to help you. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to go through the whole thing, because I can assure you, if you call me and tell me, hey, Fernando, what do I need to do about this? I say, then I know you did not watch this video, and I'll remind you to do it.